guys, what's going on? This is the conservative speaking, and um, by the way, happy conservative point of view Black History Month, and it's winding down as we know, but I'm still going to continue to keep this going with a couple more videos, and then I will close it out with a final closing remark. But we're going to move on now with Anthony Johnson. In case you guys are not familiar with that name, Anthony Johnson was the first. Not only was Anthony Johnson the first slave owner in America, but he was the first black slave owner in America, proving that that slavery was just that being a slave owner was not just reserved for white folks. It was also reserved for black folks and for anybody of any race that could afford a slave at the time that slavery was legal. Because I always find it odd that that the blacks tend to want to, and obviously it's not just the blacks, it's white liberals as well, that they tend to want to focus on white folks owning slaves, but don't necessarily want to focus on anybody else owning slaves, including the blacks. And it was originally the blacks who owned slaves that gave white people the very opportunity to become slave owners on their own, as they were able to sell the blacks to them. But now I want to be able to focus on this individual, Anthony Johnson, who clearly shows that if you have the opportunity and the means, you too can become a slave owner at the time that slavery was legal. Amazing. So Anthony Johnson, and this is from History 101, by the way. So Anthony Johnson was one of the first indentured servants who came to Virginia in 1619. The concept of indentured servants was a concept introduced by the administrators of Virginia so that people without money can enter the New World by providing free labor to their benefactor who paid for their entry. Indentured servants will only work for a set period of time and they will be free afterwards. So Anthony worked out his indentured period and, along with his wife Mary, bought their way out of bondage. And then he was fortunate enough to also buy land. So it just goes to show you that despite being a slave, that you can get out of that you can that you do have the option to leave slavery, and you also have an opportunity to own land. And we all know that anyone that owns land actually is able to obtain financial freedom, therefore making them free. A former indentured servant having his own land was practically non-existent during that time. Since him and his wife were no strangers to hard work, they were able to successfully grow their livestock and livelihood. Then by the 1650s, their property has grown to 250 acres, a rare feat for an ex-servant. Considering that Anthony owned his own plantation, he employed 5 Africans as indentured servants, and one of them was John Kaser. Amazing! A slave owning slaves. Who would have ever thought? Who's seen that coming? Ooh. John completed his servant period by laboring for 7 years without pay. However, when John asked Anthony for his freedom, the ex-servant turned freeman and owner himself refused. Wow. How about that? Anthony eventually sent Kaser to a white colonist named Robert Parker, but immediately regretted his decision. To get John back, Anthony filed a case before the county court of Northampton County, Virginia, charging Parker for taking his servant and asserting that John should be his servant for life. See, once you're able to have um, another person as your property, you're going to claim it as such. Although, I don't know if Anthony Johnson really had too much of an argument, considering that he actually um, gave his slave away to another slave owner. But yet, he had the right to do so because he had the right to own slaves. Anthony eventually sent Caesar to a white colonist named Robert Parker, but immediately regretted his decision. To get John back, Anthony filed a case before the Court County of Northampton County, Virginia, charging Parker for taking a servant and asserting that John should be his servant for life. The court ruled in favor of Anthony on March 8, 1655. John was returned to Anthony and became the first man in American history to be legally classified as a lifelong slave. Isn't that amazing? I mean, Anthony Johnson, a slave owner, all right, gave one of his slaves to another slave owner, and then actually filed a petition or filed in court that he wanted his slave back, and he successfully did it. Wow. A black man saying, hey, that's my property, I want my property back, and he wound up getting his property back. Anthony, on the other hand, became the first legally recognized slave owner in America. Isn't that amazing? I mean, so much for the whole idea that only white people own slaves. Now, I believe in transparency, okay? If you're going to criticize white folks for owning slaves, then you should also criticize black folks for owning slaves as well. And I'm sure Anthony Johnson wasn't the only one. There were also recorded Indians owning slaves, and Hispanics owning slaves. And anyone that had an opportunity to own slaves, they owned them. I mean, that was your right at the time. If you had the means to do so, then you too could own a slave. So Anthony Johnson owned a slave, and his slave, whose name was John Caesar, actually wanted to be free, but Anthony Johnson didn't want him to be free. But do you ever hear about the Pan-Africanists and the so-called civil rights activists? Do you ever hear them ever criticizing Anthony Johnson for not wanting to allow one of his slaves to be free? Absolutely not. And you never will. Until you're hearing it from me, the conservative, because I'm all about the truth. And I'm all about transparency. You know what I mean? But the point that I'm trying to make is simple. Okay? Everybody had the opportunity to own slaves. Now, whether how you feel about slavery, it's subjective. You know what I mean? You may have thought that slavery was inhumane. At the time, it wasn't. And everybody had their dibs. Everybody had a chance to own slaves. I mean, how do you think the transatlantic slave trade came about? Everyone wants to blame white folks for owning slaves. Well, how did the white folks own the slaves in the first place? It's not like they went to Africa and started hunting down these slaves. They bought them from blacks. So it was black people who originally owned slaves, and they sold the blacks all throughout the world, including to the Europeans, who then were able to bring them to this amazing country and gave them the opportunity to sell slaves to other people that were willing to buy them. One of them was Anthony Johnson. Anthony Johnson is the first recorded black slave owner in America. Not just the first slave owner, but the first black slave owner. Isn't that amazing? I'm telling you, you learn something new every single day on my channel. But let me know what you guys think about Anthony Johnson being the very first black slave owner in America. Oh, not just the first slave owner, but the first black slave owner in America. Let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment in the comment section after you subscribe to my channel. Click the like button if you liked the video and you were very informative and felt that this video was very informative. Share the video, obviously, especially if this is new to you and you want to be able to share the wealth of information among others. And once again, subscribe to my channel, as I will be able to provide you content on a double. Also, when you subscribe to my channel, click on the notification button so that you will be notified when my channel is dropping new content. And with that being said, this is The Conservative signing out. Have a blessed day, guys.